Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever hour of the day you are tuning in and watching this. Welcome to The Living Novel. The Living Novel. I talk about this a lot. Hopefully, you are able to log on to your computers and go to thebaysideexperiment.com. During those times when this is airing, when you go to the baysideexperiment.com, you're going to see a thing that I am introducing called the Living Novel, and it kind of comes in three sections. It's past, present, future. It's got a blog. It's got a book called Binge. It's really about Hollywood and how it binges all the time, and then you realize kind of life has been on this kind of binge. And so it addresses that, and it's also a little autobiographical of my past. And then it's got another section that went out with the Mayan calendar, which is about the future and things that we can do. So the living novel, and if right now it's under the working title The Bayside Experiment, and you could log into that and follow what I'm doing. But right now, the living novel, I just want to talking about writing. Nelson DeMille, we love Nelson. Known Nelson for a while. We actually want to turn his book Gold Coast into a movie, and we've talked to him about it. And Bregman, the Bregmans had it for a while. Bregman did all of the Al Pacino's movies and Scarface and Scent of a Woman, but Dog Day Afternoon, and that's what made Marty Bregman pretty famous and made Al Pacino's career. And then Michael Bregman, his son, took over some of the screenwriting for them. And but we wanted to take Nelson did The General's Daughter, and that made a lot of money, and it was great. John Travolta, it was made for like $30 million and wound up doing $330 million worldwide. It was a great return on the investment. If you looked at, pardon me, if you looked at my Facebook page or my social media or the Bayside Experiment, and there you can see my interview with Nelson, where he kind of laughed and said, "Yeah, I didn't see any of that money," but he had optioned his book for The General's Daughter, and it made a lot of money for a lot of people. So that function of writing novels and writing books and having them turned into movies, there's a lot that goes in on there. I've learned a lot about it over the years. Anybody wants to know, you're welcome to call me. But anyway, in the meantime, the living novel, life is not, it is very important to remember that life is not a script. It's not scripted out. Everything changes at a moment's notice, on a dime. You can be here, and next thing you know, you're there. And as far as reality is concerned, and our perceptions, nobody out there knows everything. Nobody knows everything. If you think you know everything, God bless you. AI might now know everything, but even AI doesn't know everything. But here, this is great. So when you least expect it, life is not scripted. Life is not a script, and you have to roll with it, and that's the beauty of life. And things like this, technology and the way things change and guests change. But here, we just got a call from Brad. Brad.
Are you talking to me?
This is Brad Beyer. Brad.
Hey,
Hey,
am I
Brad.
interrupting the show?
Yeah, well, interrupting you are coming in right at the right time, and you're coming in loud and clear. This is great.
Hey, well, stop talking when I'm interrupting.
So,
How are you, Gregory?
Brad, I'm doing great. Brad is one of my favorite new friends. Brad is incredibly talented harmonica player. I met him out at Talk over the winter. I've been live streaming the music that's been coming out of Talk at Trails End here and out there in Montauk. And on Monday nights, Joe D'Elia does this incredible music jam with these wonderfully talented people. And I went down there and said, "Hey, this is really good." And there wasn't very many people there. So I said, "Let's live stream it." We lost Brad again. So and I said, "Let's start live streaming it just for the fun of it." And then the audience started building and people started seeing it. We've got people from Texas now logging in to look at Joe D'Elia's, he calls it a great jam from, but anyway, from Tales from Talk. Tales End out in Montauk. And Brad is a harmonica player, and he started playing. Got to know the guy. You'll see him playing a lot of it. And then we got to be friends. Turned out he's a great artist. We're going to see his art. We're actually going to be going over to his house and visiting his house and looking at his art. And he's going to be trying to join us on this phone call. We don't have a lot of time, but and that was him. He's got a meeting that he's doing right now. Again, life is not a script. You just got to roll with whatever you get. And if we can get him back on the phone, he was driving along. But we were just going to introduce him. We're going to introduce some other people to you as well. Wonderful friends of mine that I have in the Broadway music industry, Broadway musical industry. But calling Brad. So I was only going to do a quick introduction with him because he was going to be in the studio, but he got a gig that he has to take care of. So if we can get Brad back on the phone. But in the meantime, again, log into the Bayside Experiment. And during those times that this is on the air, we take down a slide that says, something exciting is coming, and then we actually show you and let you come into the website and kind of explore around it. But it's two things. It's the website, the Bayside Experiment, is kind of an exploration in evolution, in helping us evolve. I've a wonderful guy, Eli Marcus. Eli Marcus, a lot of people know him from the city. He used to be one of the publishers of City Guide. He's now got a blog of his own. He's a motivational speaker. And Eli and I started a thing way back called Time to Evolve. And Eli was a guest speaker. I was the keynote speaker. And Eli would kind of warm everybody up with his motivational speaking. And great motivational speaker. You listen to Eli and you walk out there with a lot more energy. So you should all tune into Eli's The Motivation Show. And we'll give you, we'll tag information about that so you can press on and click it at Eli Marcus. So anyway, he and I did the living novel, not the living, we did A Time to Evolve. And we're still doing it. And the thing about conscious evolution and the fact that we are at a stage now in our species development where we recognize we are far more powerful as creators than we ever knew. And then the big term of the day is vibrations, that we recognize what is our vibration, and are we more successful or less successful? It has a lot to do with how we are, what vibration we are giving off. So it's important to have a good vibration. Sounds like a Beach Boys song. So the living novel, that thing that we are writing every day of our lives, the living novel, but it is not a script. You can't count on anything not changing, and you have to be able to move with it. Brad is out there in his car, and the signal, wherever he is, he can't. We lost the call, but we're going to have a couple other callers today. But the one of the things that I wanted to mention, this little experiment in literature that I'm doing. It's partially it comes from my it's like an homage to Beckett, Samuel Beckett. What a great writer. He was kind of a different writer. He kind of reminds me of Haim Mizrahi. Those of you who tune into LTV, and for the last 2 decades or more, know who Haim is. Haim is a legend in the Hamptons. He's certainly a living legend here at LTV from really the early days, and he's got a show of his own. And Haim is just this very interesting thinker. The way Haim thinks is different, and it's very creative. And getting into the mind of a thinker like that, Haim says he's the master of the alternative. He said, "Well, Haim, you're the master of the alternative." And I was lucky enough to call in and be on his show. He's been on mine. He's going to be back on again. But so this is almost like an homage to Haim Mizrahi, but and his thought processes. But it's also part of my homage to Samuel Beckett. All the writers, Beckett, I love him as much as any. And Samuel Beckett did this play. Not a lot of people know it. It's called Krapp's Last Tape. Krapp's Last Tape. And it's a really interesting, I just got fascinated with it because it was one of the first plays that I know of that actually integrates with technology as one of the characters. One of the things that you're seeing here is one of the guests that I have as I interact with AI. And I ask AI questions, like it's my favorite guest. And AI, tell me about this. And AI, tell me about that. If I got a question about legal things, AI. And I put it on with us here on our blog. So I have AI as one of my guests, kind of an alter ego or an enhancement of my individuality. I am an individuation of the energy of the divine imagination itself. as we all are. Spirituality speaking, how evolved are any of us, or what stage of the curve of evolutionary development are any of us? The reference points are still to be decided. But until we really recognize and can identify what are the reference points for our evolutionary development, is this person a little bit farther ahead on his learning curve or his spirituality development curve, or is he a little farther behind, or where are we? And there's never any. One of the things that we have evolved with is the recognition that nobody at any particular stage of their economic, educational, or intellectual, or spiritual development is any better than anybody else. All things being equal, we are all equal. And some of us may be better off financially, but it's good to remember to take that word off of that. We might, to not take that word off and recognize we're not better. We may be better off than others, but we're not better than them. And second grade is not better than first grade. High school students are not better than junior high school students. College students, people with PhDs, are not better than those people that are on their way to that. We are all equal, and at some stage of our development, wherever we are in that, we are all equals, and it's important that we all, in this evolution, it's important that we recognize that. Hey, look, we have, and as if by wizardry. Brad.
I'm sorry.
See, talk about spiritual draft. You just think his name. That's who we are now. You could just think someone's name and they call. Sometimes we used to do that. We would dial someone, pick up the phone, and all of a sudden they were there. And people never question the mathematical odds of that happening and how rare that could have been. But anyway, here we are. So hi, glad to have you back.
I'm happy to be back. I was talking the whole time. No, I'm just kidding.
How many times have I done that? I'll be talking away to somebody, and then they'll ask me a question. Yeah, and then you give them a big, long explanation and really pouring your heart out, sharing. It says, I really need you to understand. This is the way I feel. This is what it is. And then you go, hello?
There's nothing there.
And you realize, oh my God! And then you look, and so how long? When did this end? And you didn't even know.
The thing is, that was some really good words. I wish I remember what I said.
Oh yeah. You never can go back and get it again. It only ends when you've really, really gone deep down and really pulled out that stuff to give that's really real that you're never going to get to again. And you go, what? I've had that. Yeah.
There's something, the art of communication, I love all the new stuff and all that, and being able to text and all that's all great for my business and everything, but to have a conversation and to receive a letter or a note in the mail to me is such a treat.
Oh yeah, isn't it? Yeah, getting letters in. I do it now. I send cards. I send cards to people just because something. Because I know how good it feels when I get one. I'm like, I'm going to send out a bunch of cards today. So I do that.
No,
I do that.
It's really a good feeling.
Yeah.
How you doing over there? Everything all right?
Everything's great. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk to everyone about the evolution angel and the stuff that the evolution angel does to kind of screw us up with the technology and things. But I don't want to take a chance on losing you. So Brad, it's so much fun getting to know you and hanging out with you. So just so everybody knows, just say hi. I'm Brad, and introduce yourself. No, this really didn't. Brad, there's like that TV commercial we had a long time ago. Can you hear me now? So okay, right when Brad was about to talk. So come on, Brad. Hemlock Holmes to Dick Tracy. Hemlock Holmes to Dick Tracy. Oh, look, we can actually do that now. So hopefully he'll call back. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Life is not a script. We don't have a special effects person that is going to make sure this goes well and that we can then cut and then rewind and do it again. You have to do stuff on the fly, and technology will mess you up. So while we're waiting for him to call, there is a book called The Evolution Angel, and it's really, really clever. It kind of just a takeoff on Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God. But it's a guy who works in a triage center in South Philly in a hospital that's one of the most dangerous places during a really bad time like the 70s, and where every single night gang members are killing each other. And Hello, J. Edgar Hoover. How can I help you?
What are you wearing?
Well, okay, just so if you really want to know.
Oh God, I'm getting closer to town, so hopefully the trans. I'm sorry, my friend. I hope it'll be
Hey,
better.
no. It's the gods. It's the involution angels screwing around with us. I was going
Yes,
to talk about that,
yes.
but so while you're here, just please introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are because I love you. You're going to love this guy. Go.
I am Brad Beyer. I was born and raised in Sag Harbor. My family is part of the Hildreth family. It's been here since 1635. That was on my dad's side. My dad's mom was a Hildreth. So my lineage, our family lineage goes back to Lion Gardner, transferring the possession of Eastern Long Island, East End, Napeague, and Montauk from the Montaukets with Chief Wyandanch. And I'm sure we gave him a great deal.
Wow.
I'm sure he went home bragging about his wampum that night.
Listen,
But anyway, we've lived out here. I've lived out here. I grew up here, went to school here, finished high school in Santa Barbara, California in 1968, 69, just 1 year. And I went back there to school. I was going to be a theater teacher. I was a drummer, paid my way through school doing that. And then I came back home here to help my dad out. I got three brothers that all play music. And I picked up the piano, and everything changed. It changed my whole world.
you must have been pretty strong
Yeah.
picking up that piano. How heavy was that piano?
Oh, I moved 400 pianos if I moved one. That's all baloney.
I'm sorry, that was like a Groucho Marx joke for you and I. And how heavy? I picked up a piano the other morning. I picked up a piano. How heavy it was, I don't know. But go ahead.
Can you tune a fish? No, but I can tune a piano. Right. But anyway, that's how it went. Then I started fooling around with harmonicas and stuff, and I have a home inspection business I've been doing for 35 years, and trying to pull away from that a little bit so I have more time to devote to the things that I love, which is music, art, and history, stuff like that. And what a wonderful place to be involved with those things out here. It's just loaded in all aspects. So I'm very grateful. I got good health, and I got tons of friends and a huge family, and things are good.
You know, Brad, one of the things that I've come to adore out here and living out here for as long as I have, the families that you know and that you meet, the Bennetts, 15 generations back, you with the Hildreths and the Gardners, and you love that this kind of history is here. And
I think the Halseys got us beat. The Halseys in Southampton and Watermill, I think they got us beat. But 1635, come on, who's counting?
I had a crush on Patsy Halsey, like you can't believe. Growing up, she was the cutest thing in the whole world. We loved the Halsey family. My sister was closer to them than me. But down at Todd Point, over the bridge, everybody would be hanging out at the bridge growing up, and Patsy Halsey would be there. And, so cute. And I had such a crush on her, and I was kind of shy. I didn't know what to say. But yeah, look at that family, and they're like one of the over in Southampton, 1640. There's that one house. Kind of on Main Street as you're going down to the beach.
On South Main, yeah.
Yeah, and 1640 it was built. It's still there, and it's funny. And people were shorter than that because the ceiling is like you go in, the ceiling was lower. But the historic monument there in the Halsey built it.
That was to hold the heat down too.
There you go, practicality. They were smart then too. So you. By the way, you had mentioned something that we share alike. A brother that's 6 years older.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just was meeting my broker here.
Oh God, I know that we're catching everybody on the fly. So you have an older brother who's 6 years older.
Yes, 1945 he was born. Correct.
So I have a 6-year-old brother too, and that amount of time, especially during our generations, was very interesting. Going from the 50s to the 60s, and the changing of music during those periods. The music that my brother was like, when he was in college and stuff, it was the Kingston Trio, but then he moved from that kind of folk, Woody Guthrie, Kingston Trio, college kind of thing, and then I kind of remember a little bit of doo-wop stuff from my brother. Oh, we just lost Brad, but then it went into the psychedelic era, and that's when I started coming into Jimi Hendrix and everybody else. So the technology problems that we have. So Brad is really wonderful. You're going to get to meet more Brad. You're going to get to see him in person. We are going to have him in the studio with us, and we're going to be going over to Brad's house, and he's going to give us a tour of his artwork. He only talked about his music. I talked about playing drums, which I didn't know about before, but he also just talked about and what I know him as is a really great harmonica player. You can listen to Brad's harmonica playing if you tuned on to Montauk Live TV, the Facebook page, Facebook Montauk Live TV, or Instagram Montauk Live TV, and you'll see the Monday night posts of us live streaming from the music from Talk at Tail's End. And Brad is there every night. Whenever he's playing, I'm kind of zooming into him with the camera. And when you look at that, please be gentle with your feelings about the camera work. I'm kind of, in a way, I'm kind of proud of it. But with all the productions I've worked on, working at CBS for all the years, and the cameras that you had, and the quality of the camera pictures and the equipment that you had, and then working in the film industry, $80 million productions, and the quality of the caliber of the equipment and the quality of the photographs and everything that you could produce. I've loved being able to be a part of all of that. I also like the kind of just relaxed down home, just you and me. We got our cell phones. It's just us. It's here, and sharing with people with things. Just using a cell phone, trying to. If I'm live streaming something, even a parade or a music thing, I try to hold the camera steady and kind of zoom in. You'll notice if we've got a guitar solo going on, I am zooming into the guy's hands and zooming back out and trying to capture people. But there's also a kind of camera movement. David E. Kelly, when he started some of the TV shows, and Don Belisario in the camera. I think Don Belisario was really one of the first producers who said, let's start the camera moving. And then you look at their work and you see the camera movement. And but it keeps your eye going to it, and then it got adopted by all the NCIs and the police shows, and so the camera movement. When you please bear in mind when you look at our Montauk or any of our neighborhood live TV venues, either Port Washington Live TV or Bayside Live TV or wherever, you'll notice that a lot of the camera movement has that kind of relaxed movement, trying to get you into the action as if your eye is looking into it. So it's deliberate, and I hope you recognize and think that that's okay. But it's just a little style thing. But meanwhile, we have wonderful people that we want to be bringing on to the show, and this signal is a little troublesome, but we're going to bring someone. I'm just going to let them know to have them. What's this? And in life, I'm gonna get. I'm gonna hopefully. I'm gonna try to introduce you to some of my absolute favorite people that I have the fondest of feelings for, and feelings of connection with. And one of them is a very lovely woman that my recollection of meeting her, Women in Film at the High Hamptons Film Festival. Women in Film have a great event every year, and you go to it, and inspiring women doing strong, inspiring women, dedicated, ambitious women that I always find the most attractive are strong, ambitious women who have goals and that want to do things to help save the world. Love that too. But the Women in Film have an event at the Hamptons Film Festival every year, and one year I am there, and there is this very sweet little woman who is just standing there, and I'm looking at her, and we couldn't hear the person on the microphone, and I looked at her, and she said, "Oh, I wish I could hear them." And then I think the conversation just started, and then talked to her a little bit more, and then kept talking to her more, and just said, "Oh my God, this is a very, very lovely human being." And you could just tell, we talked about vibration a moment ago, you could just tell that the spirit in this woman was very authentic, very true, very loving, and nurturing, and another thing that I felt and loved, creative, just a very, very creative mind. And she's going to hopefully be calling in a minute. But her name is Pat Flicker Addis. And Pat Flicker Addis, we developed a wonderful friendship. And it was one of these things, the different friendships that we have. Sometimes one of the things that I like about New York better than I liked about LA. LA, 10 years there working in the film industry, running my own studios, and every place you went, every party you went to, every rap party, every opening, every red carpet, oh, look, here. Florida grapefruit,
sorry,
place
man.
your order.
Hey,
Hi, Brad.
I'll have two cheeseburgers and Coke, no Pepsi.
Yeah. So,
I'm at the site now, and I've kept these girls waiting.
so look, I just love that you've been able to call in at all. I know the timing was going to be tough. So,
You want me to give you a call when I'm done?
Well-
In a good spot, or come to the studio?
well,
or what?
30 seconds now, because we're going to bring you back into the studio, and then we're going to bring everybody to your house. But I was just mentioning you about how I didn't even know about your drumming. I heard about your harmonica. I just told everyone to go onto Montauk Live TV to see you playing harmonica. But I didn't know about the drums. But also, you have an older brother, 6 years older, and you have another. Tell us about your brothers. My kingdom for a signal. Life, just remember, you heard it here. Life is not a script. We are a living novel. We are writing our novel as we go along, but it's not a script, and so you're bound to have these kind of technology problems. So, so these are wonderful people that I really care about and love, and the one that you're going to hear from soon in the Broadway theater, and so talking about friendships, sometimes it's like, what do you have in common with somebody, and what do you have to talk about? Out in L.A., I didn't like it. You just couldn't go anywhere. Go to the Ivy, and you're going for lunch, and everybody's coming over to your table. Hi, listen, I want to shoot this film. I got this, and listen, could you look at this script? And by the way, I'm trying to get the funding. Someone told me that you were doing housekeeping deals with other people, and if you could do that, if I could do, I have all these people. I have this much funding for myself, and if I could. It's like, pal, I'm just trying to eat my lunch, okay? I don't want to talk business. Or then and for those periods that I was single, you go to the rap party or go to a premiere and then an award ceremony, and you hoping to meet someone that maybe you could fall in love with. Maybe the greatest love of your life is right there, and then there'd be some location manager or some producer or somebody. And because they know that I had a certain level of authority running my studios and ability to help people get their funding. Oh my God, they'd see me. Oh, Greg, hi, how are you? Listen, I was over there, and I understand you got this Disney shooting over there, right? Yeah, you got Warner Brothers. But what are you doing about? Dean Cain and Drew Barrymore. I heard the whole thing about the helicopters and Dean Cain. Oh my God, that must have been. And then all the stories. That's a fun story for another time with Drew Barrymore and Dean Cain shooting on my studios with the helicopters coming down, and thinking that I can't even go into this, but wonderful stories out of Hollywood. But anyway, wherever you go, everyone's just talking business. And sometimes you say, listen, I know you want to talk business, but I'm not in the studio right now. I'm not in my office. I'm out in public, and I would just like to have a quiet moment and meet people and see the rest of the world without having to be on with work all the time. And then after a while, that's what it was. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So, is this one of my favorite people in the entire universe?
I hope not.
See, that's what I'm talking. Just sometimes even someone's laugh is so heartwarming. Pat Flicker Addis, hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Fine, but you are great. And just a moment ago, I was kind of introducing everyone to where my belief is about where I had met you, and at the Women in Film event at the Hamptons Film Festival, and I kind of remember my first memory of us standing next to each other once a woman's mic wasn't working that well, and I looked at you and I kind of remember that's where our first conversation started. Am I wrong?
No. It was so boring. Not you. The event.
Yeah, and then so I our signal is bad. Just as long as we have you, I don't want to talk. Could you just introduce yourself and tell people what your history in Broadway and what you've done, just to give everyone a little background about yourself. I know you're very humble, but would you tell about yourself?
You want me to start from when I was a little girl?
We got all the time in the world for you, Pat.
Okay. Well, I guess my first part of show business was I had an aunt who had a millinery store in a building that ran from Park Avenue to Lexington Avenue. And
Big
we
store.
went in the entrance at Park Avenue to walk through, and a man stopped my mother and asked about me and asked if I could model. It was John Robert Powers. I was 3 years old, and I was a walking advertisement for Best and Company. At that point, all little girls of whatever had bangs and short hair, and I was a walking advertisement for Best and Company. So I started modeling when I was 3 years old, and that morphed into other things. I was in a show at the World's Fair, and my part, Oscar Hammerstein was my director, and my part was, I love the apple pie part. That was it.
And you did that very well.
Thank you.
I can see where you got the part.
And I was in a show, Prologue to Glory, and the only thing I remember, I had an adorable, beautiful, old-fashioned costume. I have no recollection of anything in the play at all, but I did learn how to jump rope in the alleyway with a cable, and that I do remember, and I became very good at jumping rope. Then, let's see, I did various things. I was on first soap opera on television called The Laytons, which was done in New York, where the old Wanamaker department store had been. And
Wow.
then I went to college. I went to Finch College, gave everything up for that, and I got a chance to be the lead on the first big TV show, The First 100 Years. And I went to the head of our college, and it meant that I'd have to, it was during Christmas holidays, I'd have to miss the rest of the semester. And he told me that opportunity, don't believe that it only knocks once. And I didn't take the part. And I was stupid, and he gave me very stupid advice because he allowed girls who were on vacation and one was in a wedding to come back a month and a half after school started. Anyway, then I gave up everything to be a wife and a mother. I had 3 children, and I love being a mommy.
And a wonderful mother, too. Your children love you so much. I've met them all, and they're really, you did such a good job with these people. They're, well, they come after you, so of course they would be beautiful. But you've been a beautiful mom.
Well, I love being a mommy. And then my husband, after 10 years of marriage, told me he didn't like children or being married. So I was left, and he was a deadbeat ex. So I had to support 3 children. So I started a company called Pat Addis Enterprises, in which I did everything with the corporate names and logos. And got very lucky and very successful. Successful enough that I could keep my kids in private school and travel to 54 countries. And so that was pretty good. Then by that time, my daughter had grown up, and she became a lawyer and had a child of her own, and decided she didn't want to be a lawyer anymore because she wanted to spend more time with her son. So I gave her my company so I could lose all my money on Broadway shows.
Pat Addis Productions?
And I did a very good job of losing a lot of money, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And my favorite show of all that I've ever done is a show that was off-Broadway called Desperate Measures. And I just love that show. And want everybody in the world to see it because everybody loves the show. They come out happy. And it's such a fun show. It's based loosely on Measure for Measure.
Look, that's the one where I kind of got introduced to you, and I would love to have been an investor. By the time I got there, it was too late. And I just had a little part. I just kept buying tons of tickets for everybody. I think it was like 200, 220 tickets or more. I kept coming into people in Bayside, the Montauk Manor. I gave tickets to everybody else, but it was my first any kind of putting money into any kind of Broadway show. But it wasn't into the show directly, but it was like buying tickets for everybody, and that was kind of fun too. And the people at the box office knew me really well. But Pat, I loved it. I loved that so much, and our favorite actor is in there. He went to Moulin Rouge.
Oh,
Connor
Ryan.
Connor Ryan.
Connor Ryan.
Oh,
He's
God.
out in California now.
What's Connor doing?
I haven't heard from him. I did see a production down at the Constellation Theater in D.C. that was every inch as good as a production in New York, if not better. The only thing that was missing was Connor. The guy who played Johnny Blood was fabulous, but he didn't have the rubber legs like Connor, so he just couldn't quite match up.
Could he hold those notes like Connor?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Yeah. That's I fell in love with Connor for that. David Friedman, Peter Kellogg wrote Desperate Measures. Pat introduced me to it. I'm watching it, and I would go there like every night. And the fun thing was we always knew about the interaction between an actor and a live audience. And most of my experience was with TV actors or film actors, but in theater, Pat, I think you know the story. I'm going to make it real quick. I have Connor, one note in a song, "It's Good to Be Alive." A great song.
I love that. I just did a thing with a young minister friend of mine for what I want if I die. And one of the things I want in my funeral service is "It's Great to Be Alive." I just love that song. And if possible, to have Connor sing it.
Yeah, at your funeral.
That's asking a lot.
Well, yeah, that sense of humor too. Well, there's Pat. There's that one part, that one note, that "good to be alive," and he's holding it. And I started noticing when I was sitting in the back of the theater, and I kind of like matinee audiences more than others, but the audience and how they were responding, and how Connor would sing that note, and sometimes he'd be holding on to it for a certain amount, and then he'd die with it. But I know sometimes he'd hang on it longer. So Pat, I think you might have remembered that I got into that thing where I would, when that song was coming up, I'd move down into the audience, and when he was singing that note, when it was almost about to end, I'd yell, "Yeah!" And then the audience, it's so funny, the audience needs somebody else to kind of trigger, like, oh, somebody else knows this is good, so I'll yell too, right? So you can kind of trigger the audience to cheer and clap, but Connor would he'd get that energy. It's fun. I loved watching that. I love being part of that. You could feed him some extra energy just going, "Yeah," and he'd hold that note another 10, 15 seconds. And I was like, wow, how cool is that? So I did that a bunch of nights. Then one night Connor comes to me and said, "You're the guy in the..." I denied it at first. He said, "You're the guy yelling in the audience." I said, "Oh, no, not me." But yeah, it was me. Yeah. I said, "Oh, no, and Connor, it wasn't me." But that interaction and recognizing that energy that the audience and the role that they play in the performances that they get is really there. I mean, it's very an important part of the process. But Connor, it was so much fun with him, and he'd hold that note. And then you took me to the Blessing of Broadway event where we recorded him at the church, and he did that performance there. But really, very special guy, very special performer.
You know, audiences play such an important part, and I realized that when I was a producer on Dinner with the Boys, which is not
Dan.
my favorite
Yeah.
show, right? But
Dan Lauria.
Dan Lauria. Yeah, he's wonderful. Anyway, it was very interesting when we had an Italian audience. The show just soared, and laughter and standing ovation. And the next night, not that audience, it was dead as a doornail. And it's really interesting how important the right audience is for a show.
That's so interesting. Yeah, if it's an ethnic thing, and that they would get it, and if they didn't, they wouldn't. So that's really interesting too. I never thought about that.
No, I hadn't until I actually saw it in action every night. That's interesting. Things that you learn on the job. And there's always something to learn. You never are finished learning. Anybody who thinks they know it all, well, I have a few words to say about that.
Yeah.
You never know it all, ever, ever, ever. And to think that you do, you have to be a little humble. You can't be arrogant. You can be, but I think it's a mistake, and I don't like arrogant people.
Me neither. There's nobody knows everything, and I actually mentioned this before. And there's always something you don't know, the knowing of which could change everything. And as long as you stay humble, like Pat is talking about, then you know that there's something you don't know, and if you know it, it could change everything. As long as you keep that in mind, I think it gives you a better experience. But,
So that, while I have you on my radar, I would like to tell you what I really want to do besides producing plays. I really want to move on and help women over 50.
Reinventing yourself.
That's right.
Yes.
And
yes.
I almost died last year, and I was winning an award called Woman of Purpose. And I couldn't move because I had so many tubes in me, and all I could do was use my brain. And I kept saying, what is a woman of purpose? What is a woman of purpose? And then I realized what my purpose was, to be inspirational. And that's what I want to be. I want to inspire women, but particularly women over 50, to get out there and live their life. Somehow or other, COVID validated a lot of people to stay in and hide. But it's important. You have one life to live, and only you can live it. I realize some people have more responsibilities than others, so it's not as easy. But it's still important that you take charge of your own life and live it, not just hide from it. And whether traveling or you want to take courses, you want to be a doula, you can do anything you want, and don't be discouraged by people saying, oh, you're too old. You can start painting. I mean, after all, Grandma Moses wasn't a spring chicken. You can do anything you want, and don't get put off by people saying you can't. You can, and you should. Anyway, now I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I love this and that's one of the things I like about our friendship is just listening to you, and that thing about inspiring women. When the first time I'd listened to that seminar and attended it, you're reinventing yourself, and you had Judy Kuriowski, you had other women that were all very intelligent, very inspiring, and it just talked about exactly this, about don't stop growing. If you don't want to get old, don't stop growing. People think they're getting old. Well, if you think you're getting old, just go out and start to keep learning something and recognize you're still the same energy you were at any age. It's just how you decide to keep going with your energy. And you, Pat Addis, you never stop. The whole time I've ever met you, you've got this energy going on. It's something else I love about you.
Well, I'm not as energetic as I used to be, but I still get around.
So, and I was mentioning, and have prepared to blush, Miss Pat Flicker Addis, prepare to blush. I just mentioned how I met you, and then when we first started meeting, and then it's like a year later, I said, oh my God, there's that wonderful woman, I liked her, and then we kind of exchanged numbers, and then we would go to dinners together, and you would take me to some plays, and then afterwards we'd go to dinner, and we'd just have a conversation, and you could think, well, what do these two people have in common, and we'll have to share with each other. But the beauty was that with Pat, we just had our humanity, and we just like, who are you and who am I? And we just got to talk. I mentioned how in L.A. I hated it because you couldn't go out without people talking about the business. So real life just kind of gets away from you. But with something I love about the East Coast, but especially about you, Pat, is every moment I've ever been with you and sitting and talking with you, I feel like I'm in touch with some beautiful part of life and who we are and what we do and how we think. And the conversations you and I have had over the years have been incredibly meaningful, authentic, gentle, sensitive, and you're always so insightful. And I think that's one of the reasons you were so good in Broadway is you just kind of see the world and understand it and know what would read for an audience and what you want to give to them.
Well, I'm quit doing I can't afford to do Broadway anymore. It's just too expensive. It's ridiculous. I mean, shows are 13 million, 19 million. There's no way you can recoup. I mean, a perfect example of that is Cabaret. They redid a theater for it. Why? I mean, it doesn't add anything to the show, and they're going to have to put that theater back again. So that's another few million, even after they close. It's absolutely absurd what's going on. And a lot of good shows are off Broadway and in the hinterlands. And, you just have to sort them out. Anyway, I love Broadway, but it's just the cost is prohibitive.
So look, you just touched the nerve for me. You know, I've got a little bit of an interest in cabaret, and the way they redid the stage. Eddie, I think he's great. I liked his performance a lot. I'd gone to some of the readings beforehand, the dress rehearsals, and then I looked at what the critics said. I actually loved, and having been going to New York and lived in New York for so long, going to after-hours clubs, I love that they kind of moved the entrance into the side thing, that you walk down this alley, and it looked like you might have been in the back alley somehow, and then you're walking in the back, and you walk around, walk in the back door, and then you walked into this place and felt like you were in a after-hours club. I said, oh, this is cool, and it was immersive. I hope that's not a good enough term here, but it was like immersive. You felt like you were going and being a part of cabaret the second you left the sidewalk and started walking down, and you suddenly became part of the cabaret thing. I felt it made me more inclusive. It made me feel like I'm really in Berlin, and I'm in this cabaret. And I thought the performances were great. The stage in the round, I was okay with that. One part of the seats in the background, on the backside, some of the lights are hitting you in the face. I wasn't that crazy about that, but I actually liked that. And then all the critics panned the entrance part, like, oh, you're walking past some garbage. It's like, oh gosh darn it. So I don't know how you deal with that. When someone's making criticizing something that you think is cool.
I love Cabaret, but I did not like this production of Cabaret at all. And I think by all the extra little things that they did, I think ruined the show as far as I'm concerned. And there was one number that I absolutely loved and adored, and boy, do they miss the boat on that. And that's the one with the ape.
She wouldn't look Jewish at all? Yeah.
That originally, the ape is supposed to be standing, not crawling on all fours.
If you could see it through my eyes. Yeah.
Right. And
if you could see her through my eyes, she wouldn't look Jewish at all. Yeah.
She should have a hat on and a handbag. And when they dance together, it all makes sense. I don't know how they could have ruined that number. That was one of the best numbers in there. Bebe Neuwirth saved that show. I thought she and...
Bebe was great. I worked with her when I was out in Hollywood working on Cheers, and I got to meet her then. And I didn't know about her Broadway background, so I only knew her from acting on the set of Cheers. And then all of a sudden, I got to see her in Chicago, and I was like, "Wow, that's Bebe!" And oh my God, what a talent! And she just blew everybody away. And then seeing her in this, I wrote a little thing on my Facebook page about it where. I feel like she kind of broke some sort of not glass ceiling. I hate that thing, but who you would cast in older parts, and Bebe's performance owned her age. She portrayed the part with her age, exactly the age of the woman, the Fräulein who runs the hotel, exactly as she would have sounded. So yeah, Bebe, just her performance with that was outstanding. I'm going to agree with you. She just made that show. Watching her performance on it, but also I think what she does for women and older women in the theater, and what they can do with a part and utilizing their age properly. Dorothy Stritch. We looked at some of the names of older women, even our beloved Angela Lansbury, but older women in the stage and what they can do. But Bebe, she set like a new bar for what older women portraying older women in the stage can do.
Yeah, I don't even think of her as an old woman.
No, you don't.
She's lovely.
Yeah. See, yeah. What age are we when we're older stuff? But
that's very, very impressive, and I love that number. And Cabaret has always been one of my favorite shows, and just because I'm not crazy about this production, I still think it's a wonderful show that people should go see, because they didn't have a chance to see the other productions. I did. So if I didn't have that chance, I would have to only take this, and I recommend this highly.
Well,
I think everybody will enjoy it.
well,
Not
something. One of the things, and I'd written about this too on my blog thing, was that we all have the Liza Minnelli, Joel Grey standard. That movie, Money, 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 and their performances in that are so great we how can you not measure it against that? So if you haven't seen that movie, you got a good chance of loving Cabaret no matter what. If you haven't seen earlier versions, you might do as I loved the way this thing was set up. I felt like I was going into an after hours club, and it was kind of sexy and sultry, and you're walking around and looking at people and wondering who's behind that curtain. So I loved the experience that it gives. Some people don't, but the reference point of the movie, that's a tough one to have to compete against.
Well,
So
there's always going to be somebody who can build a better mousetrap, and who thinks they can build a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
I think that you have to just take it for what it is, and it was a very enjoyable evening in the theater. And I feel badly comparing it, but I have no choice, because I've seen the other productions. But I highly recommend this, and I think it's a great tourist show too.
Yeah. Well, I said, look, how many plays? Fiddler on the Roof, West Side Story, Chicago, Chorus Line, Cabaret. I mean, there's that level that is just, it's just so iconic. Phantom. The certain plays, no matter what, they're going to read just because of the caliber of the music and the writing. Kander and Ebb, whether they would be loving. I said, I kind of agreed with you, Pat. I said, I don't know if Kander and Ebb would really, really love this particular version of their Cabaret. But no matter what, I mean, the music is, it's Cabaret. It's one of the tops. And only because I've only got like a minute left. Pat, I love you so much. You've been so important. I've just loved our conversations and how we've reached each other. And you and I never gloat about our backgrounds or anything. But would you please tell everybody all the plays that you've worked on? Christmas Story, Vanya, Sonia, Mike. I can't even say. So tell everyone the plays that you've done.
Well, it started with Little Women, starring Sutton Foster, a young Sutton Foster, and she's gone on to do all these amazing things. And then I did a little off-Broadway show that was absolutely wonderful and should be brought back, called Shout. I did Bridge and Tunnel, Cheetah Rivera, The Dancer's Life, Spring Awakening, Gigi.
Gigi, you did Gigi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they messed that up because they were trying to be PC, and the older man should not have enjoyed the younger girl. Well, there was nothing wrong with that in the show, but they changed it all to be the young guy, and it just didn't make sense, and it lost its beauty, unfortunately.
So
if you sign on to be a producer, you don't have the rights. It's the director. It's in the director's ball court.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They really loused that show up. The other show that I did that I was very, very proud of was Eclipse, which was about Liberian rape slaves. And it was a very important thing because it was a true story. And it was beautifully acted and beautifully done. And we almost won the award, but it was given to a not-so-good show, very political. But the Tony Awards are very political. I did win the Tony, though, for Vanya, Sonia, Masha, and Spike, which is a title nobody seems to be able to say. It's really
It is even I saw it, and I saw clips with you, and I loved it. And being Dr. Ruth, but Pat, I unfortunately we just ran out of time, so I can't wait to have you back on again and talk more about it because you are a very very special person to me in my life, and our conversations and our dinners together have been so meaningful to me, and so unfortunately I have to sign us
well,
off.
thank you. Thank you very, 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 very much. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Bye.
Okay, and you know how I always end it with us. I love you, Pat Addis. Bye for now. And everybody else, this is Greg Sullivan for the living novel. And again, log into the BaysideExperiment.com. We only put it up online while this is airing, and sometimes it's airing early in the morning, late at night. You can never know. But anyway, thank you. And Jody Gambino, thank you for helping with this. And to everybody, there you go.